Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Welcome to the deep dive. We dig into the sources so you get the insights quickly. Today, we're looking at someone who, well, holds no official title, no elected office, but somehow she's carved out this incredibly powerful, really unconventional space in American politics. You've probably seen the headlines, the very public confrontations, but her actual impact, it seems to go much, much deeper. We're doing a deep dive into Laura Loomer. That name means bold, sometimes shocking, protest to many. Our mission today is to figure out how exactly she's become this sort of unofficial loyalty enforcer, especially within Donald Trump's second administration. It's a look into a, frankly, fascinating model of political power, maybe one we haven't really seen before. So let's just start there. Why is Laura Loomer someone we need to be examining right now?
Well, what's really compelling, I think, about Laura Loomer is how her career path, her trajectory, it shines a light on a pretty significant shift in how political influence works today. She started out as someone many people might have just seen as a fringe provocateur, but she's evolved. Now she's this informal, yes, but really effective loyalty enforcer inside the Trump administration, the second term. And her power, crucially, it doesn't come from a government paycheck or winning an election. Instead, she's kind of flipped the script on traditional politics. She uses public spectacle, these big stunts, and also this carefully built story of being a victim. And she leverages that directly, influencing staffing, enforcing loyalty right inside the White House. So she's become this critical, though unofficial, part of the administration's actual structure, how it governs in 2025. It's a very modern way to gain power.
That's a really striking way to put it, an unofficial structural feature. Okay, so if we want to understand how she got there, this unique path, where does her story actually begin? What were those early experiences?
Right, so her background. She was born in Tucson, Arizona back in 1993. She's described her childhood as being in a very violent household. Academically, she spent a very short time, just one semester at Mount Holyoke College, and she left claiming she felt, quote, targeted for being conservative. This experience, or at least her framing of it, seems pretty foundational.
So right from the start, framing conflict as political persecution.
Exactly. It became this template for her public brand, the liberal establishment against her. She then transferred to Barry University, got a degree in broadcast journalism in 2015. But that early self-positioning as a victim, a martyr even, it wasn't accidental. It feels very deliberate, a core part of her strategy from way back.
And then she moved into the professional world.
Yes, and a really crucial turn was her time at Project Veritas. Now, that's an organization known for, let's say, controversial tactics. They use a lot of undercover video, deceptive methods to create these sort of gotcha clips.
Right, I remember some of those.
And that period was like a training ground for her. It gave her a very specific skill set. For instance, she used hidden cameras on university officials. And remember the 2016 stunt?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
She dressed in a burqa, went to a polling station, and asked for a ballot using Huma Abedin's name.
Oh, okay.
The point is, the method she learned there wasn't about reporting. It was about manufacturing confrontation, capturing it to push a narrative, usually corruption or, disloyalty. And that gotcha style, that's exactly the playbook she uses now as a loyalty enforcer. Just instead of a hidden camera on campus, she uses social media to publicly investigate and expose people inside the White House.
So the tactics scaled up, basically, from campus disputes to White House personnel.
Precisely. It's the origin story of her operational method, confrontation as the product itself.
That link is really clear. So how did she take those skills, that confrontational style, and really build her public profile? How does she make a name for herself?
Through a series of, highly theatrical public events. These weren't random outbursts. They seemed meticulously designed for maximum visibility and, crucially, to align her very tightly with the Trump base. Think back to 2017, the Shakespeare in the Park incident. Julius Caesar.
Oh, right, where the Caesar character looked like Trump.
Exactly. She stormed the stage shouting, "Stop the normalization of political violence against the right," big headlines. She also disrupted a book signing by Jane Coney, confronted Jack Dorsey, the Twitter CEO, at a congressional hearing.
So very public, very disruptive acts.
Yes, but calculated performances. It was strategic brand building, strategic loyalty signaling. Each event was engineered to grab attention, put her in the spotlight, and the message always tied her directly to Trump and his most dedicated supporters. These stunts, they functioned almost like a resume, a very public, tangible resume showing radical commitment.
A resume that conventional political work just couldn't provide.
Right. And that performance, that consistent public disruption, it wasn't aimed at changing policy. It was about getting noticed. getting on the radar of people like Donald Trump himself and the whole Magie movement.
Okay, so the stunts built the brand, but then comes the deplatforming. She's famous for being banned everywhere, it seems. You'd think that would kill a public career built online. How did being banned actually shape things for her, maybe even help her?
Yeah, this is where her strategy gets really interesting. The deliberate weaponization of being deplatformed. And the list is long. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Uber, Lyft, PayPal, GoFundMe, Venmo. She's been kicked off a lot of platforms.
Major platforms, too.
Absolutely. And remember, after the Twitter ban, she handcuffed herself to their New York headquarters for about 2 hours, I think. Made quite the scene.
I do remember that.
But here's the strategic brilliance. She didn't let the bans define her as someone who broke rules. She reframed them instantly. This wasn't about her content. This was evidence of persecution. Left-wing terrorists, tech tyrants trying to silence her.
Tapping right into that existing grievance narrative.
Exactly. It resonated deeply with the Magie base's feelings about media and tech censorship. So far from hurting her, the bans became fuel. They gave her this powerful victim narrative, made her a kind of free speech martyr. And it generated not just political capital, but financial support too. That crowdfunding for the Julius Caesar stunt raised over $12,000, more than covered the legal penalties.
Wow. So getting banned actually paid off literally and politically.
It created this critical causal loop. The more extreme the content that got her banned, the more validated she seemed to her audience, the more valuable her brand became. Deplatforming became a badge of honor, strategically speaking.
That's a fascinating turnaround, turning a negative into a core part of the brand.
Which brings us to her ideology. It seems complex, maybe contradictory. Where does she actually fit ideologically? Yeah, coherent isn't the first word that comes to mind. It's probably better understood as flexible, opportunistic even, a collection of provocations that serve a purpose. She's often labeled, far-right political activist, conspiracy theorist, internet personality. She's aligned herself with movements described as alt-right, anti-Islam, Trumpism, white nationalism. She's called herself pro-white nationalist, a proud Islamophobe, made numerous racist and anti-Muslim statements publicly.
Pretty extreme positions.
Extremely. And it seems designed to push boundaries, to go further than others, make more extreme claims, spread conspiracies, post openly racist content. The motivation appears to be less about deep ideological conviction and more about the strategic value of that controversy.
Controversy for attention.
Right. Attention, clicks, followers, which in turn strengthens her influence, makes her seem like a reliable, alternative source of information for her base and perhaps for the president.
Okay, but then there's the contradiction, or the apparent one, her Jewish identity alongside some of these affiliations. How does that work?
That's a really key part of her public persona and maybe her strategy. Loomer is Jewish. She calls herself a feisty Jewess. She's very staunchly pro-Israel. She's even publicly clashed with some hardline white nationalists, like Richard Spencer, who don't accept her. But at the same time, she has spoken at the American Renaissance Conference. That's a major white nationalist event. She's called herself a white advocate.
That does seem paradoxical.
It does, but strategically, it functions almost like a shield. It allows her to move in and, to some extent, normalize these white nationalist spaces, while simultaneously using her identity to deflect accusations of anti-Semitism. It's like her Jewishness becomes a kind of Teflon.
So she can engage with those networks without being immediately dismissed by everyone.
It seems that way. It creates this kind of transactional model for parts of the far right, where identity isn't about authenticity, but about neutralizing criticism. And this duality actually strengthens her position within certain segments of the Magie base, those who might hold both pro-Israel views and also white nationalist sympathies.
Yeah.
She bridges that gap.
A very unique and maybe troubling niche.
And this ties into her use of conspiracy theories, too. They function less as deeply held beliefs and more as performance of loyalty.
Political currency, almost.
Exactly, political currency. She's pushed election denialism, crisis actor, claims after mass shootings, various COVID-19 narratives. After she lost her primary race in 2022, she refused to concede, said, "I'm not conceding because I'm a winner," directly echoing Trump. Propagating these theories signals her deep distrust of all official institutions, the same ones she and the administration often target. This positions her as a trusted source for alternative truth, giving her a kind of authority that's seen as more authentic than, say, government reports.
So the conspiracies build her credibility within that specific ecosystem.
Yes, that strategic use of conspiracy as currency, it underpins her perceived authority. And it makes her role as a loyalty enforcer seem almost logical within an administration that values personal trust over bureaucratic process.
Okay, that paints a clearer picture of the ideology or lack thereof and how it functions. Let's shift to the impact. What does her influence actually look like inside the Trump administration in 2025? What's her operational role?
Operationally, her influence is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
Ineffective. Remember, she holds no official government title, zero. Yet she's become this central figure in hirings and firings of administration staff. Her power comes directly from that unmediated relationship with the president. She successfully lobbied to get aides removed from key roles, including the National Security Council.
There's specific evidence of this.
Oh, yes. The most cited example is April 2025. Loomer reportedly met with the president in the Oval Office, presented him with a dossier alleging disloyalty among certain staff.
A dossier she compiled?
Apparently. And shortly after that meeting, 6 National Security Council officials were fired. Observers have also noted more broadly that over a dozen high-ranking officials have lost jobs or had nominations pulled after Loomer publicly questioned their loyalty.
So there's a direct cause and effect being suggested.
The pattern strongly suggests it. Her power isn't the formal authority to fire someone. It's the ability to frame them as disloyal in a way that hits home with President Trump's, absolute premium on loyalty. And this whole process just bypasses the normal government channels. An outsider wielding more influence over personnel than perhaps formally vetted advisors inside.
And she's fairly open about this role.
She is. She describes her function as a full-time job, essentially, making sure the president is protected and gets the information he needs to receive. This creates this informal tip line, if you will, an outside-in system for vetting loyalty.
Which must create a certain atmosphere inside the administration.
Exactly. It fosters this climate of, fear and self-censorship. Officials aren't just accountable to their bosses. They're accountable to this external, unaccountable enforcer. It's part of the administration's operating system, really, without needing any official budget line or title for Loomer.
And the incentive then becomes?
Sycophancy. Avoid any hint of ideological difference or pragmatic compromise, because doing so could get you publicly denounced by Loomer and potentially fired. It really reflects that core feature of the Trump governance style. Personal trust and direct communication trumping bureaucratic norms.
So this parallel vetting system exists. It has real teeth. But still, for many people watching, her public persona, the loudness, the stunts, it seems like it should be a liability. How is that public image actually an asset for this behind-the-scenes role?
Right. It seems counterintuitive, but it's not a contradiction at all. Her public image is actually a profound strategic asset for this role. Yes, her persona is often described as loud, maybe vulgar, certainly theatrical, but that's functional. President Trump himself has called her a patriot. He said, "I like her. She doesn't like things going on that she thinks are bad for the country."
So he sees the aggression as positive.
It signals authenticity to him. Her aggression, her disregard for decorum, it tells the president she's a real fighter. She's not part of the swamp. That persona gives her a unique kind of credibility and trust in his eyes, something a more conventional establishment figure just wouldn't have.
So the louder she is, the more trustworthy she seems to him.
In a way, yes. The more provocative her public actions, the more it amplifies her core message of pure, unmediated loyalty. It reinforces her value as someone he can trust implicitly. So the theatrics aren't just for show. They directly fuel her operational power.
And what about her feuds? Like the very public one with Marjorie Taylor Greene, are those just personal spats?
I don't think so. Those public rivalries, even within the MAG coalition, and that feud with Greene has been called MAGA's biggest feud.
Yeah.
They serve a purpose, too. It's about brand maintenance, loyalty signaling. By attacking another prominent figure, even an elected official within the same movement, Loomer positions herself as the ultimate purist, the radical enforcer willing to call out anyone she deems insufficiently loyal. It reinforces her image as the most committed, the most vigilant enforcer, which is exactly her role with the president.
So the public fights are basically a performance of her private function.
Precisely. It strengthens her claim to that unique power by demonstrating her unwavering, absolute commitment to the president above everyone and everything else.
That makes sense. It suggests a very competitive internal environment, too.
Absolutely. Where proving loyalty, often very publicly, is paramount.
Okay, let's broaden the lens a bit. How does Laura Loomer stack up against other big names around Donald Trump in that sort of Magier power structure? She seems quite different.
She really is distinct. Her power base and method are unique compared to other key figures. You look at someone like Steve Bannon. His focus is more on building ideology, media infrastructure, pushing populist theory through things like his war room platform.
Right, the ideas guy, in a way.
Then you have Charlie Kirk. He's an institution builder. Turning Point USA, grassroots networks, focusing on youth organization.
Building the ground game.
Exactly. And someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene uses her formal position, her elected office, combined with public theatrics, as her platform. Leverage from inside Congress. Or historically, maybe Roger Stone fits the flamboyant enforcer type, but usually tied more closely to traditional campaign consulting.
So how is Loomer different from all of them?
Fundamentally different. Loomer builds no formal organization, no lasting infrastructure. Her influence isn't really tied to promoting a coherent ideology. Her single greatest asset is that direct, unmediated access to President Trump, the trust she's built with him.
Earned through spectacle and absolute loyalty.
That's it. Which makes her influence potentially volatile, sure, but incredibly potent because it's not constrained by institutional rules or even internal party politics. She's like a digital native evolution of the old political hitman, operating in a niche none of those others really fill.
A digital native hitman. That's a striking image. Okay, so let's bring it all together. What's the bottom line on Laura Loomer and her role as we see it in 2025?
I think the bottom line is that Laura Loomer's journey from this decentralized confrontational activist to an informal but genuinely powerful loyalty enforcer, it gives us a really critical case study, a new model of political power. Her rise wasn't about climbing a traditional political ladder. It was a direct result of strategically using public spectacle, tactically weaponizing deplatforming, and deploying this flexible, conspiracy-heavy ideology.
And the very things that look like liabilities.
Were actually the keys. Her loud, aggressive persona, that was the mechanism that earned her the president's direct trust. And her influence isn't just talk. Her documented operational impact on personnel, especially at the National Security Council, shows her role is very real. It's functional.
A core part of how this administration operates.
Yes, she's a de facto shadow advisor, a loyalty cop, reflecting a system that values personal trust above bureaucratic structures. In today's polarized world, Loomer's significance is showing how spectacle and direct personal relationships can actually create more power than holding office, having a clear ideology, or building institutions. Her career highlights a potential structural shift, where real, effective power can operate completely outside the normal political and governmental frameworks.
This deep dive into Laura Loomer's unique path really makes you think. What does it actually mean for governing when power can work so effectively outside traditional lines? When personal trust, built on public theatrics, can genuinely reshape an administration, often from the shadows? It's a profound question, one that seems likely to continue playing out. Thanks for joining us for this exploration. We hope you'll keep thinking about these themes and how they might be shaping the world around us.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.